Hello and welcome to the Higher Learning Exchange podcast, a space for innovators to push the boundaries of education, practice, and technology. Hello and welcome. My name is Carmen Tomas. I am your host today, and I'm really delighted to be welcoming Michael today. Michael is a startup founder. He's a researcher and also an educator from Munich, Germany. Today, we're inviting Michael for his involvement as an educator as part of the management team of the Center for Digital Technology and Management. Michael, I'm really excited to be interviewing you today about the absolutely great work that CDTM is doing for entrepreneurship education for undergraduates in both Munich and Valencia. Is that correct?
Yes, so very exciting that we have now a second location in Valencia since 1 year up and running.
Talk to us about how CDTM came about and the story behind it.
First of all, thank you so much for being here and inviting me. I've heard the other podcast, and I think it's really great that you want to get the word out about different approaches to higher education. And it's also so inspiring to hear what other guests have been doing. So maybe to start out with, what is CDTM, right? You already said it's a bit of an odd program. Having these two locations, it's not really a university, but it's attached to universities. Specifically, it's a joint institution in Munich of the LMU Munich and the TU Munich, the technical one. And now we have a similar setup in Valencia since 1 year. So for comparison, the Munich location was founded originally in 1999. So already quite an old institution, and it has iteratively developed. What it is today probably changed quite a lot compared to its original vision, but the core purpose today is to connect, educate, and empower the innovators of tomorrow. Now, the organization pursues this vision primarily by offering an honors degree program. So it's an add-on study program that around 25 students per semester start each semester next to the main studies. So typically they study computer science at TU Munich, or electrical engineering, or business administration at LMU Munich. So it's quite a mix. And then really all other disciplines can join as well, but these are, I would say, the most frequented one, since it's in this domain of digital management. And the program then takes around 3 semesters to complete through, I would say, what we call the innovator's journey. So it's 3 core courses and a few elective courses that really teach them how they can spot new trends, how they can develop digital products and address real-world problems, and then also how a go-to-market could look like. And that's the rough idea. So in the end, they are connected, educated, and empowered that they can drive innovation in careers as founders, as industry leaders, or even as researchers.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you keep a sort of initiative like this one running? How is this financed?
Well, really a big kudos goes out there for the professors that are part of the normal chair budget contribute this to the program. Then we also have supporters within the university, so at faculty level, that help us pay part of the bill. And really this is the driving cost factor, if you want, so is the management team out of 10 doctoral candidates that runs the program, but is also doing their PhDs on the side. So I would say a third to half of the money is coming directly from the university, though this means sometimes from chairs of individual professors who have some leeway with certain budgets. In other cases, from the faculty. So it's a bit of a, how should I say, it's a bit from everywhere, and in total it works. And then I would say the other half, a little bit less, because the university also provides the facilities, so the rooms and so forth. But the other half comes from industry. So this means, on the one hand, the project partners that actually provide the problems within the different courses. So they actually pay to also bring in the problems, which also creates this interesting dynamic that they actually do have expectations and they do bring in real world problems that matter to them, right? And on the other side, it's then also like third-party research projects, sometimes together with industry, sometimes more on the on the academic side that the management team, so the doctoral candidates, also conduct.
I can imagine all sorts of ups and downs, keeping the money flowing and the funding flowing year on year, because people change, So how have you engaged industry? I mean, how do you convince industry to come in as partners and also help to fund it? So how do you build that partnership?
Well, I think it's a bit different how do you start it and then how you keep building it. I think by now, CDTM in Munich is quite renowned within kind of this innovation bubble, that there are good students there, right? And maybe even the best, whatever that means. So I think there's a natural pull that companies want to work with this kind of talent. And then on the other hand, I think we have quite a big alumni network. So a lot of the projects, I would say maybe 1/3 of the projects we bring into the courses. So in total, we have on average 25 project partners each year. So this is quite a lot, and a lot of also going out and finding not only the projects that are interesting from a monetary perspective, but also interesting from a student's perspective, right? New technologies, new and timely problems that they also engaged in. And this is why you have a management team, I would say, that also has to go out and make these connections.
Moving on to the student experience, tell us from the student perspective, what's the appeal?
Yeah. Maybe I'll quickly say another word about how the courses are organized we have, because I think this matters a lot. In the end, each of these core courses brings in one or several project partners, and then the students are there from all kinds of disciplines. They're split into teams of 4 to 5 students, all interdisciplinary. So typically you have some technical background there, you have some business background there, and then you have some different students from other backgrounds there, which psychology, medicine, so really diverse in this sense. Now, they are all courses at CDTM kind of bring in this industry problem. And it might be, depending on the course, more a technical challenge or more a go-to-market business challenge. But the outset is more or less like this in all of the courses. And now what they can do at our programs, our courses, really get together with 4 or 5 other motivated students, get a real problem that matters also to the project partner, and then apply the skills they learned during their main studies in a team where they can bring them in a strength and really get experience, try themselves out, and also, I would say, get this mindset and confidence in just going ahead and trying things and seeing eventually, hopefully, if our courses work right, that within a small team, even though they're only quote unquote students, they can actually develop solutions that really matter for the other side. I think this is a great experience to make as a student, that gives you confidence, that gives you self-efficacy going out into the job market, be it as an employee or as a founder.
Yes, so I think we're getting quite naturally onto my next question. And also it's a real opportunity here because you've done a PhD on the impact. Right? You've done a PhD and research. How do you know that this program is having an impact?
Okay, I'll give you the quick background to how I came to actually do this research. So I'm originally a computer scientist. That's also in this capacity. Back in 2016, I actually got lucky because I met a friend at university who was part of the CDTM's program, and he really encouraged me to also apply. And my personal motivation back then was I could build cool stuff with cool people. Really not a lot about this entrepreneurship back in my personal motivation. And honestly, I didn't really know that, as a computer scientist, your career path, if you're good, was you go to Apple, you go to Google. But only through CDTM, I actually got to see that maybe founding myself could also be an option, like really seeing a problem and addressing it and building something with friends or other capable students, right? And so I had this personal experience that it really shaped me. And I also saw this with the different students, my peers around in this time. I always had a passion for research, a passion for education. My mom is a teacher. I probably got this from her. I felt compelled to go back to the program 2019 to join as part of the management team. And so from this position, I also got to see that the students, how they came into the program, how they grew during their time there. So I had this qualitative experience where I was, okay, this kind of seems to work, not just for me, but also for others. Now, I got a bit frustrated because I mentioned the funding situation. You always have to keep, going back and acquire new funding. And so I really wanted to get some hard data on, is this actually working?
Okay.
And, lucky is the wrong word here, but the Corona lockdown hit and I had some time on my hand to really address this question. And this was about the time where I realized, okay, to properly answer this question, you have to have a proper research design to distinguish between the treatment and the selection effect. And so I set out to plan and eventually decide to do this second dissertation in management science to really figure out how well does this work. Because I think it's quite a common problem that great initiatives, designs are drawn up in education, but it's really hard you put your time into the education part, right? And so a lot of times the evaluation stays behind. And now I was lucky to boot up some old backup servers, get the old scores from the applicants and could recover them, and eventually went through a lot of LinkedIn profiles and systematically identified them to reconstruct the career decisions of those. This is why I today have data of 10 years of applicants from 2011 and 2020, and this is what I did my research on.
So you actually went through LinkedIn and identified, wow,
1,022 profiles and coded them, and yeah.
Wow. Hey.
But this is great data, right? So you can really see who went out into which career.
Okay.
And to put it in a nutshell, we can see that around in these 10 years that I was looking at, we had around 478 applicants that actually made it into the program compared to 544 that didn't make it into the program. So these were the best applicants that applied but didn't get in. And because I had these scores from the interview process, I could control for the a priori quality differences. I don't want to get too technical here, but the short answer is that these participants, they founded startups that raised in total around 4.5 billion US dollars 10 years after they started the program. So this is a big number and accounts for around 10% of the entire venture capital that was raised by German startups during this period. So quite the outlier if you look at a program that only takes in 25 students per semester.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is a big impact for a small cohort. And also you did compare to the students that did not get into the program, correct? That was your control group?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So the best students that didn't get into the program, because there's a lot more that apply, but I limited it to the set that almost made the cut.
Wow. Okay. So that's real impact in economic terms. And I'm sure, as you've mentioned, you got your answer and you're using that when you're raising interest and getting partnerships in place, right? Did you collect any other data, or did you just sort of base it? Did you actually get to meet some of those and interview them, or do you get any more data?
So I had a lot of qualitative impressions with alumni that were not systematically recorded. So I think this is also part of me being part of this program, still running into those a lot of times, and also being quite critical about asking them, okay, what do you take away after 5 years after the program? And then I also collected systematically qualitative data. So I have around 100 answers. So that's a fifth of the participants in this cohort about what they consider the biggest learning in the program, whether they say, did it have a positive impact on your personal development, on your career, and then also for the marketers out there, also a net promoter score. So asking them on a scale from 1 to 10, how likely is it that you would recommend this to a student? And so I have quite some data on this. The answer is also the personal, the subjective perception of students who participated is that it was quite helpful, both on a personal and career side. So I think on average, it's a 9 out of 10 that they answer, which is remarkably high. And in terms of takeaways, and this may be also some of the more interesting qualitative findings of my research, one of the main takeaways is actually the community, the friends, the professional context, but also the private context that took away from this program. And so my belief, my assumption here is this is still something that research has to show in hard data, is that if we talk about entrepreneurship education, we have to talk about skills, yes, mindset, yes, that is changed, but also for it to be really effective, it needs to equip participants with the network, with role models, but also with people they can talk to that have founded or potential co-founders and investors.
Okay, so that community itself, that's such a good point, Michael. Thank you for making that point. And that's a very interesting finding. Like, yeah, the power and the impact of peers and communities.
So there's not a lot of time, and you do this additional thing. Then you have a group dynamic there where nobody wants to, everybody wants to be the best. So it's tough times. And so this learning they do during the program and the education that they have, this builds a lot of trust. And I think eventually this is also what feeds into this entire community aspect, that they become friends, that they trust each other to actually co-found together and to jump into the cold water together, what they maybe wouldn't do alone. And I think from there you have this, I think what stays in the end, if you're finishing the program, what stays for the people is very much the friends they have kept, the network they have kept. That's the glue that remains, versus I would argue how to write a business plan or the specific really skill. If you look at it, this is something you probably can also learn from a YC video on YouTube or from trying it into let's say in a single course format. But the benefit of the program actually accrues through the social capital they get, through the trust they build, through learning to work together also with these other disciplines.
So there seems to be like two stories here. Like there is the story you can tell with numbers, and that's very clear. But then I can see there's the other story and much richer, because what you're talking about there, it's really significant for when we're thinking how to design impactful learning, everyone in universities. And I think that's a lesson for everyone, the importance of building trust amongst the community.
One thing I want to maybe finish this section off is really that I'm talking a lot about the entrepreneurial output of CDTM. But if I look at numbers, around 36% of the participants do found. So this means that there's another 2/3 that go into industry, that go work at startups, that go work into other careers. And this is something where I haven't looked at quantitatively what impact it has there. But I do think that programs such as this, they are not designed to make everybody an entrepreneur, but I think it should equip people with the entrepreneurial skills that are also helpful in other career paths as this. And I want to mention this because there's really cool stuff being done from alumni also on this side. And if I talk about it, oftentimes this doesn't quite get the spotlight as much as the entrepreneurs, but this is definitely also something that is important.
Michael, thinking a bit more about the student experience, and you've mentioned that you do get a very diverse student cohorts. How do you manage, these groups, these cohorts that are so diverse, where you've got different levels? They're not only interdisciplinary, which you've described earlier, but they're also, you've got students that are just more mature than others, basically, in this working together. So how does CDTM manage to support the needs of all these different students in the same group? How does this work from the student perspective?
Well, it certainly is a challenge. I think part of why it works at CDTM is that we have this rigorous application and selection process. So there's a certain layer of the interests of the people, why they do it is aligned. And also we really look in the application process that there's a commitment to do these 3 semesters of this honors degrees program. Because if you work in a small interdisciplinary team and 1 or 2 people drop out because they have other commitments, then this becomes very critical. So the selection process does matter, I think. And then, I think the tenet of CDTM is you get a group of talented, motivated people, you give them a problem, and then you just let them go and do their thing. So it's very much about trying to figure out solutions on their own, supported, of course, by the program, the structure we provide. But my role as a course instructor, as an educator there, is not to dispense my knowledge, but rather to invite the experts that have the knowledge, that show them on a method side, okay, how could they approach the next step in this innovation process, be it reaching out to users to do interviews, or maybe how they, on a further step, develop a first prototype for a digital product and then test it with users, these kinds of things. And then as experts come in, the students can actually listen to them, but then also ask questions, and typically in the workshop sessions right after, try this out a little bit, get a little bit of feedback, and then take it and apply it the week after, and then come back into the classroom and present the results, discuss it with the peers in there that also work on other project partners, right? So there's an element of peer learning in there. There's, I would say, a strong element of really forcing students or strongly incentivizing them, I would say, with the hand-ins and deadlines they have to go out there, talk to real users and try these things out. And this is, I think, where the learning comes from in the end. And my role as an educator is there to challenge them to keep the bar high of what they should achieve. But then, of course, in this peer group of motivated students, there's also a lot of pressure developing. And so sometimes my role is also to take out pressure and really be in the supportive role where I help them focus on the relevant tasks and also take out a lot of maybe anxiety or pressure that has built up.
So what's next? I know you've recently launched your second center in Valencia, in Spain. What's on the horizon for CDTM? Are there any plans for upscaling, growing further? What's in your?
So, as said, CDTM is this very student-run and bottom-up organization. So my honest answer is that we'll have to see and iterate our way there. As for Valencia, I think it's really great to now have this second place where there is a CDTM. I truly believe that this is a place that the students will benefit tremendously from. And I also do think that if we have a working solution, we kind of have the responsibility to get it out into the world. So I think this is the first step there. And as for Munich, there's also a lot of change coming there. I think very interesting initiatives that have been discussed for 15 years, but now finally we are implementing them. So one part is kind of an innovators fund that successful alumni that have had first startups exits are contributing now to. So this also creates this feedback loop that can support new students that want to go out there and maybe change the world a little bit or in a big way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Amazing. Well, I'm sure there'll be so much more to revisit in a couple of years. It sounds like you will grow. It sounds like there'll be more success stories. And I can't wait to hear about how CDTM keeps growing and leading the way for entrepreneurship education. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you. It was a pleasure being here. I hope this was interesting. And for anyone interested in CDTM, what we do, and all these other things, I think just go to the CDTM's homepage and reach out to me directly. Just as a disclaimer, I'm now on my own journey of founding a startup, and I'm as an alumni and super happy to support the CDTM, also disseminate my research and the results. But right now we have a very capable management team of 10 new doctoral candidates, so I'm also happy to make the introduction to them.